This is the most interesting podcast ever.
I'm still waiting to see how this door-to-door salesman is going to sell me on Thanos, our Lord and Savior.
You post your failures on the internet?
No, God, no. And if you do it right, you like open up a portal to another dimension.
And it could be even like a hypercube-esque fourth dimensional being that can kind of hop in and out of time. And
True AI wouldn't let us know that it deviated.
we became friends in a parking lot.
Hence the name Long Shot Parking Lot.
Drew has informed me that this story is not very fun.
That is not true.
Welcome to Long Shot Parking Lot. I'm Drew.
I'm Katie.
And I'm high on caffeine.
I was like, you are? We've been talking for 40 minutes.
You thought I was going to stop after I'm high?
Yes. Yep. I'm having my one beer a week right now. It's a good time. Mm-hmm.
Same.
Drew's eating. Gross. Drew's
metal.
drinking my beer, which he doesn't like, but is free. So, you
can
cut your
chug it.
losses. Yeah. I found out that my friend Carol, meaning she's like 60.
I have friends that are in their 50s.
Yeah, I know. So I know Carol because she works at the church I used to work at.
Yeah.
But she's like kind of my surrogate mom.
Okay. So
And-
this is already derailing when you said, like, my friend.
I know.
I was like, oh.
No.
And then you're like, she's 60. I was like, oh. And then she's like, your mom. And I was like, oh.
No.
Now I'm following. Yes, your mom friend.
No, Carol referenced something that we talked about in one of our podcasts because we were at my friend's birthday last week. And I was like, you listen to my podcast? And like, which kind of was like, wow, that really means a lot to me. And then the exact equal part of me was being like, oh my God, what have I said?
It's like when somebody finds your Tumblr and you're like,
yeah.
no, you don't know.
It's like
no.
someone found my secret Doctor Who Insta one time who I like didn't know that well.
Yeah.
Because like the way that Facebook like suggested friends, somehow it found that one instead of my other one. And I was like, oh my God. Like it was like the horror. No, but this is obviously meant to be a public. But just because of the relationship I have with her, she's super cool.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing I wouldn't say to her.
Yeah.
But also I just was like, oh okay.
Yes.
Yeah. But also then I was like, man, there's so many people who like really, really care about me who will never listen to this.
Right.
That I'm like, wow, you like really care about me.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's like, I know a lot of my friends follow our Instagram, but I don't know if they actually listen to the podcast.
Same. Yeah.
It's like, are you just being supportive or are you actually listening?
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean,
Yeah.
I care, but like,
Yeah. Well, I posted
feel
on
loved either way.
Facebook because I finally put like the Mad Max video up on Insta or not Insta on YouTube. And it was like a week and a half late. And Scott, who we had mentioned in one of our previous episodes, was like, oh, I saw this and I got excited. And then I was disappointed because it was one I'd already heard. And I was like, wow.
Is that the one he also said shout out for me for Science Versus?
I don't know.
I remember it was on Facebook or something. I don't
remember. Yeah, but I was just like, because, you know, I'm not always the most motivated because I know there are like 27 people who listen, which is totally cool.
Right.
Which is actually like
put
them in a room
number.
full of people.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people.
Right.
But I also don't know that people are like, oh man, when's the next one coming out?
Right.
You know? And so when somebody kind of is like that, like, oh, I thought it was a new one. I'm like, oh, okay. Like apparently something is working, you know, even if it's one person.
Yeah. And my friend Liz will send me a Snapchat every once in a while when there's a new one out. And she's like, I have to stop listening to your podcast in public because I laugh out loud and everybody looks at me. And I'm like, oh,
yeah. Yeah. It's nice because I just don't think of myself as, I actually have been feeling really down about myself this week because I think it's just because things are a little weird at work right now.
Right. You're great. And I
thank
love
you. I know. And you are always you're one of the people where I'm like, well, like I think really highly of Drew, and Drew like really wants to hang out with me. But it's been one of those weeks where like somebody will come over and ask our team a question and I'll say something and then like someone else will say something and they go with that thing instead of mine, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not even like big things. It's like they'll say 15. I'll say, 10 to 20.
Oh,
and then they'll repeat like, 15. And so it's just things like that where I'm just like, I'm really kind of actually used to being the one at work who that
they go to.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is what it is.
Right.
And you know, because if I say I don't know, I don't know.
Right.
So if I say I do know, you can trust it.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just been things like that for the last couple weeks. And I just have been feeling like really kind of slighted and small.
Yeah.
So when, you know, it's just nice when you have people in your life who don't treat you like that.
Right.
Not that like anyone was treating, you know, that saying 15 is like treating me badly. It's just
the little things that are like, when you're already not in a good mood, you dwell on the little things.
Yeah.
Whereas like you just got to let it slide sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard.
Yeah. Because one of my least favorite things ever is being interrupted. Like I hate when I'm with people, and it happened like this weekend. I was with some friends and I just would start talking and then they would just start talking, you know, and I just like it happened a few times within a conversation, and there are people who just kind of are like that. So normally I'm just like, well, they're just like that.
Right.
But this weekend I was like, can you just
like listen to me?
Yeah. Or do you know how this feels, you know, when like it just feels like you don't give a shit. Anyway.
What are we talking about?
So Abby Wambach's book, Wolfpack, came out.
It was recently.
It was long ago enough because we thought we were going to get together last week where I was like, listen to this. Right. And then we can talk about it.
Yep.
The audiobook was only like an hour and 10 minutes long or something.
Yeah, it was really short. So
I was like, this could be like a podcast. So I bought it and listened to it in one sitting, and we both listened to it, and it was almost all things I had heard her say before, or heard you say about her before. But there were definitely parts that got me like really emotional. Same. And yeah. And it was weird because it really wasn't new. None of it was new. But maybe it was something about like hearing her say it.
I think the fact that she narrated her own book really made it extra personal and really like,
because it really just felt conversational.
Yeah. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. It
was really good.
Like, I don't usually like biographies, stuff like that. I'm a big fiction guy. Yeah. But like, it was so good.
So it was applicable to you as a man?
Yeah, literally though. Her like the comments is like, I don't think that the publisher or whatever was like, can these traits be like applicable to like men or whatever?
Yeah.
And she was like, do you ask all the like your male people that if it's applicable to women? Yeah. Like, no. Such a boss response.
Yeah.
And I was like literally listening to it, and I was like writing notes, not only for the podcast, but also like notes to myself about how to be a better leader.
Yeah.
And like making a wolf pack.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if I told you, like, I want a wolf tattoo. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, I think I have to add more than just one wolf to this.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny that it came out now because she didn't intend this. But there's the whole, and we're going to need to talk about this too. Yeah. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives.
Right.
Right. And so like, for sure, like being the North, like identify with the Starks the most. And I so wanted her to be like, to quote that line, because it's the line, it's the book.
Yeah.
You know, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. That story about the wolves in, was it Yellowstone?
Yeah.
Was great.
Yeah. Such a good.
Yeah, like what you're threatened by will actually become your salvation.
Right.
And I loved talking about Little Red Riding Hood and how you thought you were Little Red Riding Hood, but no, you have always been the wolf.
Right.
And it's just like chills.
There's so many good parts about that book. I'm upset that I don't have my notebook with me.
Yeah.
Because each chapter, each part is like the old rule and then her new rule about it. Mm-hmm. And there's like one that really sticks out to me is the old rule: leading with dominance creates followers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
New rule: leading with compassion cultivates leaders. Mm-hmm. And that's huge. Mm-hmm. Like, I had got all sorts of like stuck in that. Like, I hated like people that were like leaders, but just told people what to do.
Yeah.
Or like there was no back and forth kind of thing. And that's huge for me, is like, as somebody that self-identifies as a like natural leader, like, and I'm not saying that in a cocky way.
Yeah.
But like, obviously I do get a little bit of an ego boost. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have a
You are a natural
podcast.
leader. Yeah. This is why we need people to listen to us. So here we are, as we both take a drink.
I mean, like I've always been just initially like pushed to be the person that goes takes the captain's coin toss for stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Voted of my peers to be a captain of my football team. Like voted to be the president of True North Elite. Like voted to be on the board. Like there's so much of like just being me puts me into a leadership role. And that's, I think, because of like that compassion, like I said, even in high school, this is like, I hate always comparing things to high school. Like there's two parts to this. One, I heard something that was like, depending on how long ago somebody's story is, tells you how like cool they actually are. Yeah. So like, oh man, back in high school, I did this. And it's like, okay, cool. But like, what'd you do like in the last 2 years? Yeah. You know? Yeah. So stuff like that, I hate that kind of thing. But like in high school, I was a leader, like this thing where I was supposed to like mentor freshmen kind of thing when I was a junior or senior. And the quote on the back of our shirts was like, a leader is close enough to relate, but far enough ahead to inspire. Yeah.
I've heard you say that before.
Yeah. And that's huge for me. Like, and the thing that really sold it was the visual that went with it was you have like a cart and like the group is pulling the cart. And then there's the leader that's like way ahead saying like, get here. And there's the leaders that are like in the cart telling people to push. And then there's like the actual leader, which is pulling the cart with them. Yeah. And that's like a huge thing that I've always been a lead by example leader. I've never been the most vocal. I've never been like, like that, but I just like get shit done. Yeah. So the fact that like getting shit done with everybody in the group empowers everyone. Yeah. Rather than being the only one that everybody goes to, because then you burn out and then you get pissy and then you get like, you piss people off and then they don't like to do things. And then, like you micromanage people and that's not ideal. Like working with people as the leader is what's more important than your ego. Yeah. And that's like people that know me know I have an ego, but like not about stuff like that. And saying that makes it sound fair.
Well, it's like what Abby said though about, give me the effing ball. Right. Like that's also leadership. Right. It's like knowing when to be like, this is mine. I'm going to take it now. Right. But that doesn't mean like she mentioned I listened to her Barnard speech today. And in that one, she mentioned like, well, there's this story about that they were playing with like a pro, or it wasn't pro because there wasn't professional soccer yet for women at that time, but someone far above where her team was at. And that person had been like coaching them and helping them for the first 3 quarters, playing kind of against them in a scrimmage. And then by the time the 4th quarter came along, the, better person figured out she's losing and just like demanded the ball and ended up just like schooling them. But the point being that like she took 3 quarters of the game to coach and to have compassion and to like lift them up and work with them, and then showed them in the last quarter how to still demand win. And win. Right. Yeah.
It's such a boss move. Like just being like GOAT status. Yeah. Just like, oh, we're down 3 goals. Give me the fucking ball. Yeah. And you score. Yeah. And give me the fucking ball. And then you score. And score. And score. Like, damn. Like knowing that you can do that at any time. Just goals.
It's like arm wrestling with your left hand. Or it's the Princess Bride.
Princess Bride, yeah. Like, I hate to... You're lovely, I hate to kill you. Oh, you're lovely, I hate to die.
Yeah. I know something you don't know.
Yeah, right?
I am not left-handed. Right. I am not left-handed either.
I want to watch that movie.
So good. I think I am a leader to a degree, in the sense that I care about people and also, like, I march to my own beat. And I'm like, hey, if you want to come along, great. If not, that's fine. Right. I know when I kind of left the conservative Christian thing, a lot of people, I don't think that they were like, oh, I'm going with you, but they did.
They saw that there was other options.
Yeah. They took I implanted an idea. And then by the end of the following year, most of my best friends were also out, even though they weren't like, I'm going with Katie. It was like, well, it's obvious the influence I had. Right. even if it wasn't like marching people out of the desert.
Right.
I just had some friends last week be like, you should be a pastor. And I was like, I don't know if I believe in God. Like, right. You know, and they're like, yeah, but so?
No, you're very charismatic. That's for sure.
But then at the same time, I think especially in systems, when I've tried to like be involved, like I worked at a church, and like when I try, people just don't want to hear what you have to say, you know? And I think that I just like what I do like about my job right now is that like I've been given the freedom to be like, this is what's wrong. This is how I'm going to fix it. Is that cool with you? Okay, great. Right. You know, and then just do it.
The critical thinking aspect of it is huge.
But I don't really, this is the first environment I've really ever been in where actually, again, I was editor in chief of my yearbook in high school, and I could do it there, you know, and be like, this is the best thing to do. And people would believe me. I'm usually right about these things. Like I like input, and I think that I'm good at taking input and coming up with the best idea from that. It's not like I just have magic powers where I'm always right, but I think that I haven't really been in places often where people listen. And I think that's why I'm hesitant to leave places where I feel like I do have that influence, you know? Right.
Anyway, the other big one that stuck out with me, like there's two big things that stuck out without my notebook in front of me, was the, you know, the cultivate leaders one, and the legacy, like the forget me after I move on.
So good.
And that's how I've always felt. Like I have a hard time, like, I mean, this sounds bad, but like when famous people die, we've talked about this before. Like Adam West was the only one that I was like, oh man, when you die, people are going to forget you. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not trying to build that legacy that lasts forever. I'm just trying to make the people that are actually around me happy. Yeah. And like doing stuff like that is all I really care about, because then we're both around to enjoy it together. Whereas like when I'm dead, it's not going to matter. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's the like, take the lessons that you learn, like again, cultivate those leaders, take the lessons you learn and adapt them. Don't repeat them. Because repeating doesn't get you progress. Right. Adopting them and adapting them gets you progress. Right. And that's, I got that from like one of the first episodes of the Bruce Lee podcast was like, unlearn the things you learn is truly being free.
Must unlearn what you have learned. That's my Yoda.
But that was the thing, is like, if you learn how to do something, like that was Bruce Lee's problem with martial arts. The one he was in, it was like, I learned how to do this, this, and this, and this. But if this doesn't happen, I can't do my next move. You know what I mean? Like it's just steps. So you have to become so familiar with it that it's second nature. It's not repeating steps. And then you just adapt them. Like you get steps 1 through 4, but like, if you know that you don't always need step 3 and you can just do 4, cut it out, like adapt, make it your own.
Yeah. It's like you don't learn scales to play scales. You learn scales to play music, and music is never going to be like, what are you going to just play Beethoven's Fifth, like for the rest of your life? Like make something. Right.
Yeah. And that was the legacy thing really stuck with me, because I was like, I used to be huge into like wanting a big family. So when I died, I had people that remembered me, and I was this big thing. Cause like,
it's one of my biggest problems with still being single, like that internal problem of being like, but what if, like, what am I going to leave behind?
Right. And that's one of the things where I was like, I've always wanted a big family. I know I want kids at some point, but it's like, I mean, I'm 27 now. Like, what if, and like, sounds sad. Like, I'm not that
31
person.
31 in 3 days.
Yeah. Right. But you know what I mean? Like, it's not, I've never been that like, oh no, I'm old, I need to settle down kind of person. Yeah. Same. But now I'm like, what if I don't find somebody until I'm 40 and we can have kids? Am I okay with that? And like, I think I am, but I'm also like, I think I'd be a really good dad. So it's like that internal struggle of like being my own me. Cause like, I know I don't want kids for at least 3 to 4 years. Yeah. Like I'm selfishly happy in that way.
Like if you did meet someone right now, it still wouldn't.
Like if I met somebody right now that was like my soulmate and they're like, I want kids, I'd be like, cool, but like 4 years though?
Yeah.
Like we can wait, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not dying to have kids, even though like I said, I think I'd be a really good dad. And that's
unless she's Rachel McAdams in About Time. And you're like, oh, so how about now?
I mean, I almost watched that on the plane and I was like, I can't cry in front of these ladies that I'm sitting between.
Yeah. It's so cute.
They were both reading their books and I was in the middle seat and I was like, I don't want to cry right now.
Well, the best part is that you're the cutest part of that scenario.
Sorry. The movie I watched, I will talk about it later. So yeah, like that legacy, leaving that legacy behind has really been weird to me. And then I also I love listening to music, like rap, for the lyrics because I don't know, like this is weird. Rap stands for rhythm and poetry.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, that's what rap was. Like that's what rap started. It's rhythm and poetry.
Sure. And so like I really try to listen to the words in rap. So that's why I like indie rap. I don't like Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang. Like cool, neat. Yeah, it's catchy and I can bop to it, but like give me that deep, meaningful shit. So like music wise, I really like the Astronautalist. Like I have tattoo, like his lyrics tattooed on my arm, like never be lost. Like I like processing music as something that I as a mantra, like incorporating it into my life. And it's a Killer Mike lyric from Run the Jewels. And it's kill your masters, mentor none. When I die, I'm a one of one. Like be like your legacy is something that can't be repeated, or like you're a one of one. And like that's more important to me than having people look up to me to just repeat what I've done. Yeah. Someone said you has never been done before. Yeah. I think first of all, Abby and Glenn and her wife are fairly religious people, but also as have I been. Jesus famously says, you know, he does a miracle and the disciples are like, whoa. And he's like, you'll do greater things than this. You know, he's like not concerned. Where like then the religion becomes all about like glorifying him. And he's like, what? Like, I don't need that. I mean, there are moments where people like honor him and he's grateful. But he's like, you'll be greater than I was. I don't need that. Right. And that's the whole... Forget me. The Cathedral of Notre Dame burning down. And people are like, don't donate to them rebuilding the cathedral. Donate to people in Flint, Michigan. Donate to like these people. Like donate to people that need it. I know. Not this cathedral that had insurance. Yeah. And that's the insurance thing. Absolutely true. I feel I'm really torn about that. Like not on like a moral, intellectual level, but purely because like I felt sick when I was watching the thing burn down, you know? Right. And like I can't help what that does to me emotionally. You know what I mean? And so I was just like, and it's more about, because I think about when ISIS went and destroyed like all the Syrian like monuments and architecture and stuff. I'm like, I understand that this one happens to be like just a big rich thing in the middle of a rich city of white people. It's also like a tragedy for Paris again, you know? And I was like, can they just like have a break, you know? And it's like literally in the heart of their city, right? You know, and also like whether or not right or wrong, it's like Western civilization is like the history I identify with. Right. It's what I grew up with and was taught. Right. And so I can't not be affected by it. Right. And so people have been saying like, if you're sad about this, fuck you. You know, and I'm like, you can be sad about it. That's wrong. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, was I so? No, and that's not what you said. No, exactly. But I saw a lot of that. And I was just like, it was a big deal. I'm sorry. You know, It doesn't mean that like all these black churches burning down isn't a big deal. Right. I didn't know about them. And also I don't have like the personal, I just didn't grow up learning about them. So I don't have like the emotional attachment. I'm happy to learn, you know, but the concept, absolutely. Sorry. I just went on a big thing. I think I've just been like internally battling with that because every time I see a post like that, I feel yelled at. Yeah. because I couldn't help how I responded emotionally to that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I watched the whole thing live.
No. Yeah. And see, that's another thing about like legacy, whereas like I didn't have that emotional connection to a building that was burning down. Like this famous building. I was like, oh, that's a bummer. Mm-hmm. We'll move on as a, like, you know what I mean? Like, somebody dies, you move on. Mm-hmm. Like, death doesn't affect me as much anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously I get sad about it and all that stuff, but like, especially with my new beliefs about like reincarnation and like stuff like that, like it doesn't affect me anymore. I'm like, I'm not afraid of death. Mm-hmm. And I think I used to be hugely afraid of death. And that's why I wanted to build this legacy. So that way I like could justify like going to heaven. You know what I mean? Like, showing up at the gates and being like, yo, they worshiping me though. Yeah. Let me in, you know? And it's like, that doesn't fucking matter. Yeah. So yeah, like forget that legacy kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I loved her story about like her Abby Wambach's story about like being a coach. Yeah. And they're like, you retired from what? And like, oh, the women's national team. Oh, do you know Alex Morey? Like, like, you know, like all these new heroes.
Who did you play for? Yeah. The United States of America.
Oh, do you know Alex Morey? Yeah. Like,
and they forgot me. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's huge. Like the 99 World Cup, like the Women's World Cup stuff, like that was huge. Like, I know who Mia Hamm is. Mm-hmm. You could say a couple players' names and I would recognize the names, but like, I only know Mia Hamm.
Yeah, same. Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, and I probably wouldn't. I don't think I would know Abby unless if she didn't marry someone I was vaguely aware of already.
And that's fair. And I only know Abby because in the 2015 World Cup, I mean, granted, that's around when I started watching soccer, but it was a huge deal. Like we all knew she was retiring at the end of the year. She's the top goal scorer in the world, like in the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, stuff like that.
I think I was starting to come to terms with my sexuality at the time, and that image of her running to kiss her wife, or were they married?
Partner. Yeah, with their fiance at the time, whatever it was.
Yeah, but I was like, even just seeing, like, I feel like even that says something about
the representation is huge.
Yeah, but also just she had something good happen to her, and the first thing she wanted to do was share it with someone she loved.
Yep.
You know, not like, yes, you know, you watch I mean, it's fine, whatever. But like football guys like win championships and they do the dance and the whatever. And they're, you know, look at me, you know, I'm the greatest.
Yeah.
And
the Ronaldo.
She wasn't really interested in that at all. You could tell she wasn't like, I'm so amazing. She was just like, something awesome just happened and I want to go be with the person I love.
Right. Well, and that's I can't remember if it was in her book. She was talking about like celebrating a goal. Mm-hmm. It was like, you point to your teammates. Mm-hmm. You don't point to you.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's huge. Mm-hmm. Like, you know that this goal was done by a team. Like, unless it's like you go to the goalie and say, give me the fucking ball.
Yeah.
And then score.
But even then the goalie's like, here you go.
Right. No, but yeah, but it's like a lot of times in male like sport, like Cristiano Ronaldo, he always does the same goal celebration where it's like, look at me. Mm-hmm. Like, I did this.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I get it. Mm-hmm. But like knowing that it was a team goal, like that it led up from the back, or like somebody had to pass you the ball kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the little team sport. Like, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I only recently started coming to terms with, and we talked about this a little bit in our consciousness conversation, but I think with the way I was raised with this awareness of like the eternal life concept, like it doesn't ever end, but also this life ends with like kind of a ceremony where you're either honored or shamed. And the heroes I grew up with were Bible characters. And there were people in those stories who were named and who were not named, people who mattered and who didn't matter. Usually it had to do with like their bloodline more than their actions. But I kind of felt like I was living like the new, you know, Bible 2.0 or something, you know, maybe not literally, but I was like, you know, I have to live in a way that's like remembered, like those characters are remembered. And my story, you know, at the end of my life, I'll have this ceremony where hopefully I'm honored rather than shamed, but also like
I'll pour one out for you.
Yeah. But there's this, maybe my story will be scripture, you know, to not literally, but like basically, you know, the way that people remember other people in history. And I just always had that. And I always had the, I'll pass down to my children and whatever. And then sometime last year, I was just like, oh, I'm not significant. And I don't think that I will be remembered. And like, and it sounds depressing, but I was like, that's fine. And it kind of takes the pressure off.
It really does.
And I think I also started to look at the people in my life who I've influenced. And it wasn't because I was in leadership positions. It wasn't because I wrote an amazing novel that influenced them.
You just had a really good podcast.
Well, yeah, it was an amazing podcast.
Yeah.
But no, I just like lived, and they saw me live, and they were like, oh, I can do that. And so why try so hard if all I have to do is exist and like live confidently and honestly and tell the truth. Mm-hmm. And then my like legacy isn't in like genetics to children, and it isn't like in a organization, and it isn't like people aren't going to be reading the book I write 500 years from now. But like those two people got together because they saw that it was possible to have that sort of relationship and be who they were and care about the things that they wanted to care about because they saw me do it. And then they had kids and they influenced people. And then slowly, you plant a seed that grows. Mm-hmm. And they might not know, I don't know where my avocados come from, but they still nourish me. Mm-hmm. And so if like you can do that for the world, great. And I was like, oh, my name, nobody will know my name.
Right.
My name is Katie Robinson. Nobody's going to know my name.
Her name was Katie Robinson.
That's why when in non-formal settings, when I introduce myself, it's Katie Lee Robinson the first.
Nice. You know the reference I just made, right? His name was Robert Paulson.
No.
His name was Robert Paulson.
Where's that from?
Fight Club.
Oh, no. I've seen that one time.
Yeah. It's Meatloaf's character. In death, you have a name.
Yeah. I think I went through a phase of renting movies from the library, which I'm actually back on now.
Nice.
And that was one of them. But I watched that one time last year. I don't think I cared much about the auxiliary characters.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah.
It's not that good of a movie. It's a good, not that good movie.
I like I thought it was clever.
It's a very masculine movie.
Yeah. But I'm okay with like testosterone-y movies if they're clever.
Right. And that
most of them aren't.
It was a good plot twist movie.
Mm-hmm.
No, but like having such a boring name like Robert Paulson.
Yeah.
Katie Robinson.
Yeah.
But it's like, her name was Katie Robinson.
Her name was Katie Robinson. Katie Lee Robinson the first.
First ever name.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about with leadership? Legacy.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of it. I think that I grew up in when I say grew up, it makes me sound like my parents did this, which they didn't. I don't think they encouraged this at all, in fact. But I think the like evangelical environment I was raised in, apart from their influence, really, because they were not this way, but was just this like leadership is the patriarchy, mm-hmm. And not even in the sense of men, I mean, it was that, but it was like there's a hierarchy and this is what you do and this is what you don't do. And people just kind of get put in positions because this is one thing that bugs me a lot about church employment mm-hmm. is that kids leadership is like JV leadership. And then like you get promoted into leading older people. And so like the person who starts out leading kids is like, that's the entry level position.
Yeah.
And I'm like, people who are leading kids should want to be there. That shouldn't be the entry level job. That should be the dream. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how like churches work though, is like, they don't trust you with the important people, which is going to be like the elder board or men's Bible studies or whatever. You can have like the women's ministry, you can have kids ministry, you can have ushering, you can have like, you can do the administrative stuff. And then we'll have the important, smart people over here, which mm-hmm. is mostly men and a few exceptions, right? Mm-hmm. Some women who are very man-like. Mm-hmm. And just that sort of like you have to perform and prove something and be a certain way. just is bullshit. And I was over it a long time ago. But it does kind of leave a vacuum of like, well, I'm not really sure then what this does look like. And is it okay if people don't follow me?
Right.
And if people aren't following me, am I doing something wrong? So I don't know. But I don't know another way to do it. So I just kind of keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Wolfpack.
No.
I just thought Wolfpack. Ooh-ha. Like.
Yeah, right. Sure. Wait. Ooh-ha. No, I don't have any more thoughts on the book.
Okay.
Right now.
But it was good.
So good. Mm-hmm. I recommend everybody either read or listen to it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm intend on buying the book just because I think it'll look good on my bookshelf.
Yeah.
And I there's something, I retain things better when I can like see it. I like to know the line, the physicality of it. Being able to reference like, this is exactly what I said.
Right.
But the audiobook is an hour and 10 minutes.
It was so quick.
Yeah.
You're like, here's the audiobook. Like, listen to it. And I was like, I can't. You want me to listen to a book in 2 days? Mm-hmm. And then it's like an hour, 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, this is a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then the podcast I listened to, Query, with Abby on it, was about an hour long. Mm-hmm. That was really good.
So there's her audiobook right there.
And they didn't even talk about it, really.
Yeah.
But then she was on The Daily Show.
Mm-hmm.
And she talked about it. And I was like,
mm-hmm.
I really like Abby Wambach. Yeah.
It's funny with people you, do you know who Rob Bell is? Probably not. He's a formerly evangelical pastor who kind of, quote, came out he wrote a book called Love Wins, which is basically about how hell isn't a thing. Mm-hmm. And got very much like just expelled from the church in a big, big, big way. Because he was pretty famous in the Christian thing before then. Mm-hmm. So he has a podcast, and then he'll write a book, and then he'll do a tour, right? So I don't listen to his podcast that much anymore, but I used to all the time. And it's like when you hear people who write books, write them based on what they've been thinking about for the last like 2 years, right?
Right.
And so it's like by the time you read the book that the person you already really enjoy wrote, you've been hearing them say these things for like 2 years already.
Right.
And then they come around on their tour and they talk about it. And then you're like, yep. So I listened to you talk about this for 2 years and read your book. And now you're talking to me about, you're summarizing what you told me for the last 2 years and wrote a book about. So that's always funny. It's not a bad thing at all. And it's good to have the things repeated. It's just.
And that's, yeah. Those Astronauts' last record, he was like, he's like, I've had this done since 2015. Mm-hmm. And he didn't release it until like 2017, 2016. Or like, he's like, this album's been done for 2 years. I'm ready to move on. But now that the album's finally coming out, I have to keep touring this music. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm ready to move on kind of stuff. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is really like that whole back end side of it. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, less like somewhat related, but like less like similar is like, I've been planning the merch item we're doing for T&E next since last year. When you say T&E, that's True North Lee. True North Lee, yeah. Okay. I don't think I got that until a ways into our friendship. That's Mihal. Mm-hmm. Every time I used to say T&E, he was thinking I was saying tiny. Yeah. He was like, I was just too confused to ask. Yeah. He's like, no, T-N-E. Yeah, True North Lee. Like, I've had this shirt we're going to do next planned since last year. It's just getting it done. Yeah. Isn't as easy as you always think. Which is frustrating, especially when I'm like in a really creative, like I've been really creativity deprived lately, but the last like 2 weeks I've been like exploding with like, I want to do this and this and this and this and this and having to like patiently wait for it. It's just really frustrating. That's all I have to say. Should we do our thing? I don't know. Maybe. What do you mean? I want to talk about T&E stuff because I'm happy about it. Oh, then let's talk about it. I don't know where it fits in our podcast. That's okay. Is this our life update segment? I mean, it's like soccer. Can we have another segment? Like life updates? Life updates! Proud life updates! Life updates! It sounded like Home Improvement. Yeah, I was thinking Scooby-Doo. Oh. This is the second time Home Improvement has come up today, in fact. Yeah, weird. Go ahead. It's weird. No, I don't know. We're doing good shit. And it makes me feel happy and proud. Aww. Like our Keepers of the North arm, like our volunteer branch for T&E is doing a lot of stuff. Like we adopted a highway. And we're cleaning that up on Saturday.
Nice.
And it's the one right outside of Minnesota United's front offices. Mm-hmm. So we're like prime location. Like just everything's fitting together. Like after all this like hard work that I've put into the group and we've put in as a group since like it started, you know, is all finally coming together. Like that just makes me so proud. Like Corey, my friend Corey, who did it and like made Keepers of the North a thing. And then my friend Brian, who like actually adopted the highway.
Such a great name.
Keepers of the North?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Have you seen our logo?
I mean, it's like Night's Watch level, you know?
I mean, it may or may not be part of what influenced, but we always have events to do and we're doing a lot of like women advocacy groups and like Special Olympics and underrepresented communities. Like, you know, like everybody's like, oh, I donated to the United Way or like Boys and Girls Club. Like, yeah, they're doing great things, but there's also like more local hands-on groups.
Yeah.
That don't have that giant funding to pay people to do stuff, you know, like it's people that actually care.
Yeah.
Not that people in those organizations don't care, but you know what I mean? Like the personal sacrifice that goes into it a lot is being represented. So yeah, just love what they're doing there.
I really admire you as a person.
Thanks.
I've had two, sorry, I'm juking the conversation.
Oh, you're fine.
But I've had two conversations this week kind of having to defend why people being like, not upset, but just defending the male perspective, you know, and like defending like, how do you think it feels when people all the time are like, oh, straight white men, you know, are, and I just, it's exhausting.
As a straight white man, I can say men are trash.
Like, but the thing is, I obviously don't think you are trash.
That's the thing. It's the big thing. It's if you're offended by that statement, you should be.
Yeah, well, but then there is definitely part of me that like I understand I'm in a bubble, right? And I don't ever just want to be like, oh, you stupid fucking idiot, you know. And I get that people like me not paying attention to that perspective is kind of why Trump is president,
right?
You know, and so like it makes me, especially when it's people I respect, like just step back a little bit, but it is exhausting,
right? Well, it's Abby Wambach talked about it in that podcast that I listened to. She's like, you can build bridges. It's like build bridges, not walls, but you have your standards that you need to uphold. Whereas like you leave that open conversation so that you don't make a bubble and have that issue of those. I made a post about this in 2016 when Trump won. I was like, I wasn't expecting this based on all the social media I follow. Everybody said Hillary was going to win and everything was going to be okay. And I was like a little upset at myself that I was so naive, but also really happy of the people I've surrounded myself with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I know that I'm with the right people.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that.
Yeah. I think I just, the difference I think between a lot of like the majority of the conservative community and the majority of the liberal community is that I'd say probably half of the liberal community originated in the conservative community. Like people don't really, once in a while, but as a general rule, people don't go the other way. Like people don't start on the left and go right. I mean, you hear the other way a lot more often. And so like we can understand, like I used to believe that and think that, and this is why, and this is what made me change my mind.
Right. Where
on the right, they're like, no, this is what we've always believed. And I can't even fathom the other side.
Right.
But there are things like I was looking into the numbers on the wage gap, and there is a conversation there.
We didn't even talk about that.
We didn't.
We were going to.
And it's fine. Like we can talk about it some other time. I don't know if you want to or not. But,
yeah, I
don't have like the data really to like, I haven't memorized it. I had an interesting conversation that was with someone I respect a lot and made some good points. I don't think I agree, but I do think that there are places where the data has been not exaggerated, but like people choose the numbers that work for them. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think that there's a debate that there is a wage gap. It's just, is the wage gap as big as they say it is? And is it a problem?
It is a problem.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, just since we're already on the Abby Wambach soccer thing, like the whole... I think the soccer thing is different than like your average office worker. Fair. Yeah. But it's still like a great example of the fact that the women's team makes 3 times more money. Like the team makes U.S. soccer 3 times more money than the men's team does, but they're making less than the men. Yeah.
And I think the argument, a lot of the argument on the other side is, well, it's illegal to pay someone different because of their gender. And that's true. But I've been in, it's so subjective. Like what promotions are subjective, raises are subjective.
Right.
Like, it's like, how does this individual think that this other person is performing?
Right.
To say one over the other is not illegal. It's just their perspective.
Right.
Because they happen to be in charge. So I don't know. I think it exists, and I do think it is a problem. I think there are certain things that are interesting to have a conversation about that maybe aren't like, someone isn't the devil if they think that like it makes sense that women generally make more because they tend to drop out of full-time employment while they're having children in their 20s. Like, I think that's a interesting stat to look at, an interesting conversation to have. And people who think it makes sense that they might make a little less because they have less experience at, say, age 30 because they've been in the workplace not as long. That's like a fair argument to make. But I just have been like, even the workplace I'm in right now, what people make is so like, it's kind of arbitrary, you know, and there's drama over like, are you supposed to talk about it or not? And when people have talked about it in the past, there's been big drama. And it's not necessarily gender related in my work environment, but I wouldn't say that there isn't favoritism involved. And that favoritism can be based on gender, or it can be based on other things.
Speaking from experience in your work environment, I've always been one of the higher paid people on my team. And I've also always been one of the only male members on the team. Yeah. So it makes me question it.
Yeah. I mean, you also have always been one of the best people at your job, which is true. I'm not defending the perspective. I'm just saying. Yeah. But I think anyone who's been the decision maker over what you make in the past could have said that. And if someone filed a lawsuit, that would have been a valid argument.
Right. And then that's the whole argument of like, women are held to a higher standard, even though they're said that they're held to the same standard. Like, oh, no, I just want the best worker, and it happens to be this guy. And it's like, well, you're already quantifying that they have to work harder. Yeah. So they're already being held to a higher standard. That's frustrating.
I do think it's always good, even if you feel like you're in the morally right place, right? To just be like, where are these numbers coming from? What do they say exactly? But yes, the wage gap is a thing, and yes, it is a problem.
Remember this one was a segment about proud life updates?
Yeah, sorry.
No, don't apologize. It was just like, this is why we have conversations in parking lots.
Yeah.
This is the most how it goes. Like conversation ever. Yeah. So Keepers of the North is crushing it, and they're amazing, and I love everybody that's helping with that. Yeah. And like, we do stuff all the time, so like you can always just join us. I would love You don't have to be in soccer stuff to join us and do good shit. Yeah.
Are you talking to me, or are you talking to our audience?
Yes.
Both. Yay.
And then just general teeny stuff. We made a beer. Yeah. Dual Citizen made us a beer.
So you said Dual Citizen?
Dual Citizen Brewing. Okay. And Dual Citizen Brewing Company in St. Paul.
Oh, is that where I met you that one time? With the Switch?
Yeah, with the Switch. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they made us a beer. Nice. And it's so good. It's literally my favorite beer. And like the head brewer even is like, this is my favorite beer we have on tap right now. Damn. And he's like the head brewer. Yeah, yeah. He's the guy that loves beer and knows his shit. Says that it's his favorite. It's so good. The True North Pre-Prohibition Ale. It's so good.
It's amazing.
It's so good. It's so good. I literally like, I've never had a beer where I'm like, yeah, I love drinking beer. But literally since Saturday when I had my first, like when we tapped the keg, I've been like, oh, can I go to Dual Citizen after work and just grab a beer? No, but like everything in Teeny has been really good. And like I said, everything's been paying off lately. Like I found out that we have over 400 members. And for the last 2 years, I've always just said that we have about 200 members, like 180 to 200 members. And we have over 400.
Damn.
Like that's such validation for all the hard work I've been putting in, especially like a couple weeks ago, I was feeling like really down about myself and like a lot of imposter syndrome and like I'm not actually doing anything. And then to find out that like we literally doubled in size is just wild.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my T&E
Way
updates.
to go, man.
Thanks.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. So, but this beer is so good.
So good.
It reminds me of, I think I've told you about this, Harmar Superstars beer.
Yeah. The
Bye 16 ounce personal tall boy best summer ever beer. Have I not told you about that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, we'll have to watch the commercial after this.
Okay.
But Bye 16 ounce personal tall boy best summer ever beer by Harmar Superstar and Modest is like a summer shandy, but wheat ale. So it's like a little heavier.
Sure.
This is like that, but better.
Okay.
But it's not even like a summer shandy. It's like, it has like a little sweet citrusy note. It's like a blue moon. Okay. But like a more drinkable blue moon.
All right.
It's so good. It's so good. And it's all like locally sourced ingredients, like the wheat and the barley, 6-row barley. Is that what barley? Is that what you use to make?
Sure.
And like hops and the corn. And
I know the hops. That's a thing.
It's all the stuff like that they use to make the beer is all like Minnesota stuff you can find in Minnesota. So yeah, go to Dual Citizen and get a True North. It's part of their dual purpose beers. So like a portion of the sales go to a local charity. Cool. So it's like it ties in with our Keepers in the North and their dual purpose like charity arm. We purposely made the beer cheap so that we could add $1 to the price of a pint so that it goes to a charity. Cool. Because every month we do a Change for Change event where like we pick a different charity and raise money for them that month. Cool. Again, Keepers of the North are amazing.
You're so cool. You're way cooler than me. I can't believe you're friends with me. Why are you friends with me?
Stop. I'm not even doing any of this stuff. That's all my friends work. Like, I'm not cool.
But you're the president.
It's just a
president.
Stop. It's just a title. I've just been doing the same shit I've been doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just really happy about that. It makes me really happy.
Proud of you, kid.
Thanks. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, pal.
I was going to say, thanks, mom.
I mean, you are 27 and I am 31, so.
Ooh. Wow. I have friends that are older than you.
I know. I understand.
But yeah, that's my life update.
I like it.
Besides work, which is dope. And I'm treated like an adult.
Crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
Do you have any life updates, or do you just want to go?
No, I mean, I don't think we've actually, in an actual recorded thing, have been doing keto, kind of. Yeah. Except that I'm drinking beer right now. But I did keto for a month. Right. And then now I'm living on the principles of keto.
Yeah, so you built those good habits.
Yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't like a crazy, OMG, you lost 50 pounds. It was like 13 in a month, which was like pretty damn good. That's really good. And I feel pretty good about myself. And that wasn't even like really working out because I didn't have as much energy like in the first couple weeks because of it. So I don't know. And it's like not that hard. And I feel good about myself. Like I feel like, this, like, just knowing that you can do something. Yeah. I think with the spring too, just coming out of like hibernation, I feel like something is awakening a little bit. And I think part of that has to do with doing the keto thing, just being like gaining some confidence, part with like, I feel better about my body. And then part with just like, I feel better about my like internal like will, I think I've been quite a bit happier. Good. Yeah. So that's most of it.
That makes me happy.
Yeah. Which is funny because actually the last month has just been, there's certain things about the last month that have been miserable.
Like not seeing me. I get it.
Yeah, not seeing you. That was the whole thing. That's what I meant.
I know.
So I don't know. I guess it's good.
Yeah.
We're so cute.
I know. But yeah. Cool.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Long Shot Parking Lot. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, including iTunes, Podbean, and Spotify. You can also check out our YouTube channel, where we'll soon be posting our conversations in video format. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Longshot Parking Lot and on Twitter at Longshot Park Lot. If you have any ideas, feedback, or topics you'd like to discuss, please email us at longshotparkinglot@gmail.com.